Okay, and here is another one. So this is an Apple, which has an Apple sticker on it. MacBook Pro, okay. Model A2289. So this one, he actually brought me a charger with it. Not sure this is the original one. Sander, yeah. 20 volt, 3.35 amps. So yeah, USB-C, PD, power supply. So we'll do the same thing that we did with the other one. Okay. Put the charger in and see what it does. Well, it lights up. And this one, is just dissipating a little bit of power. Nothing much. Well, half a watt or so. Seems to be on 5 volts. I would have thought it would be higher than that, to be quite honest. What happens? Nothing. Or rather, no difference, okay? No change. So we're not going to see anything getting hot in this one, that's for sure. Let's open it up and have a look what we have. This has these weird pentalobe screws that they are called. So you need a pentalobe screwdriver. This is not a Torx, it has like, well, 5 lobes, hence pentalobe, not 6. With the correct screwdriver, this is easy enough, but without the correct one, it's a pain in the ass. As far as I know, pentalobe only come in one size, so you just need to get a pentalobe screwdriver. Then it will open up easily enough. Yeah. Or so the theory goes. But there is a knack to this. So once I have this end loose, it slides. Yeah, there's like a little gap down there you can get your fingers in. And it should slide forwards. That's the oh yes, don't raise this end too much, you know, just like that. If you lift this too much, you can't do it. Okay, and we are in. Okay, so the first thing I'm interested to see is what voltage rails do we have up. We obviously have some supply because it's drawing current, but it's not controlling the PD power supply. Yeah, so we must only have standby, I think. Let's have a look. So nothing on that one. I don't know what should be on these, by the way. Not familiar with this laptop. Just having a look around, see if I can see anything sensible. These are all off. Nothing really there. Oh, that's a 12 volt. So it's generating the 12 volt internally from a 5 volt coming in. 3.8. I think that's probably the battery charger, you know, because the battery connects somewhere here. And it's kind of climbing. I'm pretty sure that's the battery. Nothing. Nothing. Oh, 0.013. Is there a standby somewhere? Yeah, there. Must have just had a bad connection to it. 3.3. So I've got 3.3 and 12. And another one here with about 0.013 and then 3.8 on the battery. Okay, so we only appear to have a 12 volts of 3.3 and what's probably the battery circuit. I can't easily get to where the battery terminals are. They're under here, I guess. Well, I would just like to try pressing the start button and see if that makes any difference to the current it's drawing. So we can see the current clearly there, and it's still obviously on 5 volts. So until this boots up, it's not going to request a higher voltage, or rather, during the boot up sequence, this should request a higher voltage, and then it boots. Yeah. So let's see. Power button. Does it change? Something's happening. Let me just unplug this again. Okay. Plug it in. So we can see the readings changing a little bit. Let's see if anything happens. So I'm going to press the power button now. In fact, I'll press and hold it in. It seems to have some very small effect. I'm just trying to figure out if the power button is actually working. And I would say it's inconclusive. In fact, if we just let it settle, I think I've sort of proved that the power... No, it doesn't. I thought I'd prove the power button has an effect, but you can kind of cycles. There, you see how it goes down, then back up on the current. So every few seconds. There. Okay. It drops from about 110, 150 milliamps to 70. And then back up again, yeah? There. If I press the power button now, doesn't have any effect. It does that cycling anyway. I'll just wait till it happens again. In fact, I pressed the button while it was down. Comes back up. Okay. I'll disconnect this again. I'll try disconnecting the battery. Now let's see if it does the same thing or something different. So I've disconnected the battery. Let's see what we can see now. Okay, so about the same. Maybe a little bit higher, 120 milliamps rather than 110. Yeah, then it drops to 87. Let's see how long this takes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 seconds. I'm just counting. I wasn't actually watching a clock, okay? 6 or 7 seconds, then it cycles. Right. I've been looking around this and I've found something interesting, I think. So I'll explain what I was doing and why. I was interested to see if the 3.3 volt supply rail was changing as this changes, okay? You see it drops there. So this is the 3.3 volt. And you see by 3.298. And then there, that's the point where the current drops and the voltage goes up slightly. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. So as the current drops, the voltage on the regulator output goes up slightly, and that's pretty much normal behavior for a voltage regulator buck converter if the load on that converter is also changing, and we can see it's synchronized to this. So I think we can prove, or we have proved, that whatever is doing that is being supplied from this 3.3 volts. I then wanted to have a look at the 12 volts here, which actually is not 12, it's 12.3. And again, if we wait while the current changes, that is much more stable. I mean, 0.001 of a volt change. Yeah? Just to mention, since I forgot to mention, that behavior with the cycling current and the voltage on the 3.3 does the same thing whether the battery is attached or not, okay? So that 12.3 specifically is the main supply rail for the laptop. So it's generating that itself from the incoming supply here. And that is like the main supply rail. And that's there. The way this is doing this is obviously controlled by something. It's like clockwork, yeah? So something is happening on the board. Maybe something is initializing, trying to start, and then doesn't like something, or something times out and then it reinitializes and it starts, and on ad nauseum, yeah? And that's what seems to be happening. So from there, again, this is from Google because I'm not familiar at all with these. I've never really repaired one before, but I should have a 1.8 volt supply from what I've read. And I was trying to find the 1.8 volt supply, and it's not on any of these buck converters. So I thought, well, there could be more stuff on the other side of the board. But another good place to look would be on all the various capacitors. So I looked around the large capacitors, still couldn't see a 1.8. I was wondering if the BIOS on this, you know, if it has a BIOS like a Windows laptop has a BIOS. I'm not sure, but you know, a 24X or 25X EEPROM, then possibly that is a 1.8 BIOS chip, and if I can find that, I can say, yes, we've got a 1.8. I couldn't see anything that looked like a EEPROM 8-pin. And while I was looking around the large capacitors, I couldn't really see anything, so I went for some of the smaller capacitors. And then, when I got down here, this is where something interesting happened. Having gone around all these large capacitors and still couldn't find this elusive 1.8 volt supply, I then went on to smaller capacitors, specifically the ones that looked like they were on a voltage rail as decouplers. I mean, this is just visual, kind of guessing, yeah, well, not exactly guessing, a bit of experience. And I wasn't aimlessly poking around with a multimeter, by the way. I was actually specifically looking for something, and that isn't the same thing, yeah? If you think that's important, chat about it down there. But what happened is, when I put my multimeter probe on one end of this capacitor, it was 0. I went to the other end, thinking, well, maybe this end was ground. And once I pushed my multimeter probe on, the capacitor just jumped off the board. It's there. It's there. By the way, with or without this capacitor fitted, it still does this current cycling thing. In fact, when I was just showing you, that's without the capacitor on the board. And I think probably that capacitor has got nothing to do with this actual fault. But I decided to have a look with my microscope, of course. And this is what I see. So this is where the capacitor broke off. There. Looks crystalline, not good. But just look at these other components around here. Especially down this side. Here. And across the bottom also. Even back up the other side. This looks like corrosion to me. Or even some liquid got on the board. But it certainly doesn't look good. This chip I've been unable to identify from the number. At least that first number. This looks like a year, 2019. Maybe. Can't identify it. It's some sort of either BGA, I think more likely, or a QFN. Probably a little BGA. But it looks like it's supplied from something. This is almost certainly a capacitor. And then we have 3 of these. You can see heavy tracks going up to those. And they look like they might be capacitors. But I think in actual fact they may be inductors. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's not a capacitor, or it's short. Yeah. They're not in. Well, those two appear to be in parallel. That one isn't. Yeah. I think they're inductors, and I think because of that, this is like a triple power supply, which can probably switch these on and off individually. A couple of things I'm a bit also concerned about. Or maybe not. Let me get the microscope again. This end of these 2 inductors are clearly coming from different pins on here. But this end, let me have a look. Yeah, those actually look like they are connected in parallel. So this must be a two-phase supply, and that must be a single-phase supply. And I'm wondering if this is why the whole thing isn't working, because of the corrosion around here. I don't think that capacitor itself had anything to do with it working or not. But I need to solder it back on. Of course, another problem, I have no schematics, I have no board view, unless you know differently. I have no data sheet for this chip, unless you know differently. And I'm kind of working on educated intuition. How about that? Educated intuition. So I think the next thing to try is resolder this capacitor. I'll just see if I can just test it out of circuit. I don't think it's broken exactly. Resolder that capacitor. Clean all this lot up with ISO. Power it up. If I'm lucky, it'll work. If it doesn't work, I want to see, does this chip have any supply voltage? Which I'd imagine is either going to be on here or on one or both of these capacitors. And if so, does it have any output on here, on these two rails? Yeah, this could be the missing 1.8, but with a lack of any further information, let's just go with my suggestion, yeah? Soldering and cleaning. Well guys, I couldn't solder that capacitor. I couldn't get enough heat in, basically. I tried hot tweezers. I tried tweezers and a soldering iron. I put some leaded solder on there, but I had to use quite a chunky tip to do that. It wasn't easily workable, so I decided the only way I was going to solder that capacitor back in was to take the motherboard off and use hot air. I'll just show you underneath. So this side is pretty good. Don't really see any corrosion issues. Okay. Nothing obvious stands out. Okay. But now I can tilt the board. Okay, now you see it. Now you see it. It's a rabbit hole with a very muddy ending, I think. Let me see if I can actually buy a board for this, just to give them a price, yeah. And yes, I can buy them from various sellers. You see the price, a little bit of postage. Okay, I'm not sure which version this one is, but you can see the prices. Okay, different vendor. But to be quite honest, they could buy a refurbished one from eBay for about the same price. Yeah. So based on that alone, I'm going to put this one firmly as beyond economical repair. I'd be interested to hear if you agree with that, by the way. You don't have to, but talk about it down there. I just have a lot of little fixtures and fittings to stick back on to put this together, and you won't be seeing it again. Okay guys, hope you enjoyed this anyway, and I look forward to seeing you all soon again on Learning Electronics Repair. Ciao for now guys.